right now, on a stunning, like 75-degree sunny day down in coastal Georgia, the sky is perfectly clear.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, the ocean breeze feels amazing. But the roofs on some of the most expensive homes in the state are quietly being eaten alive.
Literally eaten.
Literally. And, we tend to look at a house and immediately judge the curb appeal, right?
Right.
The fresh paint, the landscaping, maybe a nice wraparound porch.
Right. The stuff you can see from the street.
Exactly. The roof is usually just viewed as like a decorative cap. I mean, as long as it matches the shutters and isn't actively caving into the living room, we just assume it's doing its job.
Yeah, and that static lid mentality is a dangerous assumption, especially in a coastal environment. People tend to treat a roof as a binary system, like it's either keeping the rain out or it's failing.
Right.
But from an engineering standpoint,
Yeah.
a roof is subjected to a constant, brutal barrage of chemical and physical forces.
Okay, let's unpack this. Well, let's unpack this because today's deep dive is fundamentally shifting how we look at the structures protecting us.
It really is a total paradigm shift.
It is. We have a fascinating stack of sources to pull from today. We've got a comprehensive set of briefing documents, a strategic guidebook, a blog post, and a recent April 13th, 2026 press release.
All provided by Coastal Georgia Quality Roofs.
Yes, exactly. And our mission today is to look past the real estate glamour of places like Brunswick and St. Simon's Island and uncover the intense microscopic building science and, the high-stakes insurance battles happening right above your head.
Because the sources make it clear that living on the coast requires a complete perspective shift. I mean, we have to fundamentally redefine what the actual threat to a home even is.
Because everyone just watches the news, right?
Right. Everyone is conditioned to fear the loud threats. A Category 4 hurricane comes through, and it's dramatic. You see trees snapped, shingles violently torn off.
The failure is immediate and highly visible.
Exactly. But the briefing documents argue that while hurricanes are terrifying, they are relatively rare events.
Yeah, the real enemy is what the building science community calls the silent predator.
The silent predator, which is this 24/7, 365-day-a-year atmospheric degradation.
And it starts with salt air, which, by the way, is the exact reason you probably want to live on the coast to begin with.
The irony is unavoidable. That volatile chemical cocktail of sodium chloride and water vapor that smells so good when you're on vacation.
Wow.
It's actually acting as a massive, relentless desiccant on your building materials.
A desiccant, like those little silica packets you find in shoeboxes.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Airborne salt crystals are highly hygroscopic, meaning they actively attract and hold water molecules from the surrounding environment.
Wow.
So when that salt mist settles on a roof, it begins aggressively pulling ambient moisture deep into the actual microscopic substrate of the roofing materials.
It's basically like pouring salt on a slug, but in ultra slow motion happening to a structural element of your house.
Chemically speaking, that is a highly accurate way to visualize it. This initiates a severe process called asphalt binder oxidation or bituminous degradation.
Okay, let's break that down. Asphalt binder oxidation.
Right. So traditional asphalt shingles rely on a highly engineered petroleum-based chemical glue. That's the asphalt binder.
Okay.
And its job is to hold the fiberglass mat together, retain the surface granules, and maintain the material's flexibility.
So it's supposed to be somewhat pliable, to handle weather changes.
Under normal conditions, yes. But the constant exposure to the salt desiccant, combined with the severe, unrelenting UV radiation down on the southern coast.
The sun is brutal down there.
It is. And it actually causes the lighter essential oils and plasticizers inside that asphalt glue to literally evaporate into the atmosphere.
Wait. The actual chemical glue holding the roof together evaporates.
It vaporizes over time.
Yeah.
And the result is a total loss of material elasticity. The shingle becomes incredibly brittle, essentially turning into a fragile sheet of glass.
Whoa. Wow.
Once it loses that flexibility, the material develops microfissures. And that leads to something even more insidious, which is interstitial moisture.
Right. I spent a lot of time looking at this specific concept in the sources because it completely changes the timeline of home maintenance. Interstitial moisture.
It's a huge deal.
It's water vapor that gets trapped between these now brittle shingles and the actual wooden plywood deck of the roof. But how does it actually get trapped there without showing up inside the house?
What's fascinating here is the mechanics of those microfissures we just mentioned. They act almost like one-way moisture valves.
One-way valves?
Yeah. During a heavy rain or, a high humidity event, moisture easily penetrates the cracked, oxidized shingles. But when the sun comes out, That trapped water cannot quickly evaporate back out through the dense material.
So where does it go?
It condensates on the underside of the shingle and drips directly onto the felt underlayment and the plywood decking.
So the plywood is just soaking up water like a sponge.
Continuously. The wood absorbs the moisture, begins to delaminate, and loses its structural shear strength.
And people don't even know it's happening.
No, they don't. Homeowners commit a massive strategic error by waiting for a water stain to appear on their drywall before calling a professional.
Because it takes a while to soak through.
Exactly. Because the plywood acts as a barrier, it will soak up an immense amount of water before gravity finally pulls a single, visible drop into your living room.
Wow.
By the time you see the leak, your structural decking has often been rotting for months.
That paints such a wild picture. It's like an invisible, slow-motion chemical fire.
That's a great way to put it.
You look up on a sunny Tuesday, the sky is blue, the house looks perfectly fine from the driveway, but the salt air is just quietly hollowing out the structure from the outside in.
And that chemical breakdown, leaving the shingles brittle and porous, it basically sets the dinner table for the next phase of the attack.
Right. The biological buffet,
Mm.
which sounds like a terrible restaurant, but it's actually happening on top of your house.
Sadly, yes.
We are talking about coastal Georgia, so 90% humidity is just a given. And the sources describe the roof in this environment as literally turning into a petri dish.
A literal petri dish.
And this isn't just harmless, ugly mold. We're dealing with something called gluocapsamagma. Did I say that right?
Gluocapsamagma, yeah.
Yeah.
Most people look up at a roof and see those dark, unsightly black streaks running down the slope, and they just assume their roof is a little dirty.
Like maybe some simple black algae from nearby oak trees or something.
Right, but Gluocapsamagma is a completely different beast. It is a highly aggressive cyanobacteria that acts as a structural parasite.
A parasite. Because it isn't just sitting on the roof, right? It is actively consuming it.
Yes. Modern asphalt shingles use crushed limestone minerals as an industrial filler material, just to add weight and durability to the product.
Okay.
Well, the cyanobacteria has evolved to feed directly on the calcium carbonate in that limestone.
Nice.
Yeah. It secretes an acidic compound that breaks down the mineral filler, physically hollowing out the shingles from the inside. Your roof is quite literally its food source.
And while the bacteria is feasting on the structural integrity of the roof, the coastal climate is simultaneously tearing the material apart through thermal cycling.
Which is brutal on its own.
Let's really break down the physics of thermal cycling, because reading through the strategic guidebook, this seems to be the ultimate nail in the coffin for standard, off-the-shelf roofing materials.
Sure. Think about the physics of a typical coastal morning. At dawn, it's incredibly humid, and the hygroscopic salt has drawn moisture deep into the porous, bacteria-eaten shingle.
So the material is completely saturated.
Completely. Then, the intense morning sun hits the dark surface of the roof. The temperature of that material can shoot up 50 or 60 degrees in a matter of an hour.
So the moisture trapped inside rapidly heats up and turns to vapor.
It vaporizes and attempts to expand. This thermal expansion forces the shingle to stretch. But remember the asphalt binder oxidation we discussed earlier.
Right, the essential oils evaporated. So the shingle has zero elasticity. It can't stretch.
Exactly. So instead of stretching, it violently microfractures.
Ouch.
This constant daily breathing, the rapid expanding and contracting it mechanically severs the bond between the brittle asphalt and the protective ceramic granules coated on the very top of the shingle.
And those granules are essentially the roof sunscreen, right? They
Right.
block the UV rays from hitting the raw asphalt.
That's their primary job.
Yeah.
But once those granules are detached by the thermal cycling, they wash away in the next rainstorm.
Just gone.
Gone. The forensic evidence of this massive failure is probably sitting in the gutters of coastal homes right now.
Listen, if you are a homeowner listening to this and you are cleaning your gutters this weekend, look closely at what you are scooping out. If you find a heavy accumulation of what looks like dark sand or like thick sludge, that isn't dirt from your oak tree.
No, it's not.
You are physically holding the armor of your roof in your hands. It has washed away, leaving the bare bitumen completely defenseless against the sun.
And at that point, the degradation accelerates exponentially.
Okay, I have to pause and push back on this whole concept for a second.
Sure.
If the coastal environment, the salt desiccant, the 90% humidity, the thermal shock, if it's this relentlessly destructive, wouldn't the most logical defense be to just use traditional, natural material.
Like what?
Like, shouldn't a high-end coastal home just use real cedar wood shakes or actual stone slate? I mean, they literally come from nature, so shouldn't they be equipped to survive nature?
This raises an important question, and it's a very common assumption among homeowners building custom properties. It's the age-old battle of aesthetics versus survival.
Right.
We inherently trust and love the look of natural materials. But when exposed to concentrated coastal extremes, nature actually has fatal structural flaws.
Fatal flaws. How so?
Well, real wood acts as a sponge. It absorbs that 90% humidity, swells, and inevitably succumbs to biological rot.
Okay, fair. But what about stone?
Real stone, like slate, won't rot, but it is incredibly brittle against flying storm debris, and it is exponentially heavy.
Oh, meaning you can't just put slate on a standard house framing?
Not at all. You would have to engineer massive, incredibly expensive structural reinforcements to the trusses and load-bearing walls, just so the sheer weight of a slate roof doesn't cause the house to cave in on itself.
Wow.
Modern building science has actually had to evolve past nature in order to survive it. Standard off-the-shelf materials and even traditional natural materials just are not going to cut it in the Golden Isles.
Which brings us to the actual solution the sources outline.
Yeah.
Engineering the coastal shield.
Yes.
Because natural materials have those fatal vulnerabilities, the building science industry had to design synthetic, coastal-ready armor to fight back against the biology and physics we just explored.
This is exactly where you see a massive divergence in the market between a standard roofer and a true coastal specialist. You have to deploy strategic material defense.
So what are we talking about here?
For properties directly in the salt spray zone or exposed to extreme wind uplift, metal roofing is widely considered the gold standard. We are talking about heavily galvanized substrates or high-grade aluminum systems.
Because metal doesn't rely on volatile oils that can evaporate and cyanobacteria can't eat it?
Precisely. It neutralizes both the chemical and biological threats simultaneously, while offering superior aerodynamics against hurricane-force winds.
But the sources acknowledge that not everyone wants the aesthetic of a metal roof.
Right.
I mean, a lot of HOAs won't even allow them. So if you need an asphalt or synthetic option, the briefing documents point out some incredible engineering advancements, specifically products from Atlas, like their Storm Master Shake and Pinnacle Pristine lines.
If a property requires a shingle profile, it must have engineered resilience. Those specific Atlas products feature Class 4 impact resistance.
Which means?
It involves polymer-modified asphalt designed to absorb the kinetic energy of flying storm debris without fracturing. But chemically, they also incorporate Scotchgard protector technology.
Okay, when I read that, I immediately thought of the spray you put on a suede couch to repel wine spills. How does that translate to a roof?
It's a completely different mechanism engineered specifically for extreme environments. These shingles are embedded with specialized time-released copper ions.
Copper ions.
Yeah. When it rains, or even during heavy morning dew, trace amounts of these copper ions are released across the surface of the roof. Copper is a natural antimicrobial agent.
Oh, wow.
It binds to the cellular walls of the Gliocapsa magma, the limestone-eating cyanobacteria, and basically short-circuits their metabolism. It chemically stops the roof from becoming a biological buffet.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. For the high-end legacy estates, the sources highlight these Brava synthetic systems. And reading the specs on these, they sound like absolute marvels of material science.
The Brava systems represent a masterclass in advanced polymer engineering. They use highly durable compressed recycled plastics and synthetic polymers.
And they are manufactured to mimic the exact visual texture of those natural materials we talked about earlier. Spanish barrel tile, traditional slate roof tile, rustic cedar shake.
They look identical.
But because they are synthetic polymers, the moisture rot issue is entirely eliminated. And they are remarkably lightweight compared to real stone.
Which eliminates the need for that massive structural reinforcement we talked about, saving the homeowner tens of thousands of dollars in framing costs.
It's like a high-performance mixed martial artist wearing a tailored tuxedo.
I love that analogy.
Right. It gives you the traditional, luxurious, historical look of a coastal estate, but underneath, the material is secretly engineered to absorb kinetic energy and take a punch from a Category 4 hurricane without shattering.
That perfectly captures the dual purpose. And if we look at the financial implications of this engineering, it fundamentally changes the nature of a property.
How so?
Upgrading to these advanced systems shifts a legacy property, a family home on Sea Island or St. Simons, that you plan to pass down from being an ongoing liability to being a resilient sanctuary.
But there is a massive catch detailed in the strategic guidebook.
Always a catch.
You can't just order the armor online and slap it on yourself. You can buy the most advanced, expensive, engineered roofing system on the planet, but if it is fastened to the roof deck incorrectly, you are entirely exposed,
Oh, absolutely.
physically and financially. The human element, like the actual contractor, is just as important as the polymer chemistry.
The margin for error during installation in a coastal microclimate is absolute zero. This is why the sources heavily emphasize the operational history of coastal Georgia quality roofs.
Yeah.
They aren't a pop-up company chasing storm damage out of the back of a pickup truck.
Right.
They have a 50-year local family legacy.
The documents mention they expanded their specialized coastal operations in 2016, but that was built on the foundation of their sister company, Northeast Georgia Quality Roofs, which had already spent 11 years leading the market up in the Athens area.
Yes, deep roots.
So they bring deep institutional knowledge to Brunswick, Darien, Woodbine.
Jekyll Island, Sea Island.
Yeah, Waverly and White Oak. They really understand the localized wind tunnels and the heavy salt saturation zones.
And that local expertise translates directly into technical execution. Let's look at the physics of wind uplift during a severe storm.
Okay.
Wind blowing over the profile of a house creates an immense low-pressure zone directly above the roof due to Bernoulli's principle.
Just like an airplane wing.
Exactly. The roof isn't just being pushed, it is literally being violently sucked upward.
The briefing documents call the installation process the hidden cost of the bargain. Because let's say you're a homeowner trying to save money. You get a quote from a certified professional, and then you get a quote from an uncertified contractor who offers to do the job for, like, $1,500 less.
It happens all the time.
If you take that cheaper quote, you might be setting yourself up for a financial disaster.
It is incredibly dangerous. Coastal Georgia is a designated 130-mile-per-hour wind zone. In those high-velocity zones, manufacturers mandate very specific approved procedures to counteract that low-pressure suction.
Like what kind of procedures?
For example, a specialized 6-nail fastening pattern per individual shingle is legally mandatory, as opposed to the standard 4-nail pattern used inland.
So mechanically, what does adding 2 extra nails actually do?
It completely changes the load distribution. Think of holding an umbrella in a hurricane.
Okay, terrible idea, but I'm with you.
If you just hold the center, handle the equivalent of a 4-nail pattern, the wind will easily invert the canopy and snap the spines.
Right.
But if you could physically grip the outer edges of the canopy at multiple points, the 6-nail pattern, you distribute the kinetic force across the entire structure, preventing the wind from getting underneath and lifting it.
So if the bargain installer cuts corners, uses the standard 4-nail pattern, and just pockets the difference, what happens to the warranty?
Well, the manufacturer's forensic engineers will eventually inspect it, see the 4-nail pattern, and instantly void the lifetime warranty.
Instantly void it.
The math on this is brutal for the homeowner. That $1,500 upfront savings just vanished. When the next major storm hits, and the shingles are sucked off the roof because they weren't fastened to code, the insurance adjuster will note the voided warranty and legally deny the claim.
Oh my gosh.
Your $1,500 savings just transformed into a $20,000 out-of-pocket liability for a full replacement.
So having a certification isn't just about a fancy plaque on the contractor's office wall. It is literal financial armor.
This is why Coastal Georgia Quality Roofs places such heavy emphasis on their teams being strictly certified through the CertainTeed Master Shingle Applicator Program, alongside maintaining rigorous OSHA safety compliance. They are installing not just to look good, but to forensic manufacturer-mandated legal standards.
And that word forensic is the key to surviving the aftermath of a storm, because once the wind stops, the insurance battle begins.
It's a whole different war.
Yeah, the contractor suddenly has to transition from being a builder to being a highly technical translator for the homeowner.
After a catastrophic event, insurance adjusters are overwhelmed, and their mandate is to manage costs. Subjective complaints from a homeowner saying, my roof looks damaged, rarely result in a full replacement.
So what do they need?
Adjusters require objective, undeniable data. They need a true forensic inspection.
And the sources outline what that actually entails. A certified coastal roofer isn't just walking around looking for a few missing shingles. They are documenting the invisible damage.
Exactly.
They are finding microscopic mat breakage. They are identifying shingles that have been creased by extreme wind uplift pressures, bending them backward until the fiberglass snaps internally, which you can't even see from the ground.
They're also measuring for that hidden interstitial moisture rotting the deck, proving that the structural integrity of the fastening substrate has been critically compromised.
It's basically building a legal case.
It is. They present a comprehensive data package proving that a temporary patch job will fail, legally cornering the insurance company into authorizing a full, proper roof replacement.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener? It sounds like owning property on the coast means you are basically fighting a continuous two-front war. You're fighting a physical war against the atmosphere, the desiccant salt, the thermal shock, the cyanobacteria, and you're fighting a bureaucratic war against the insurance paperwork.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, having a certified local advocate fundamentally shifts that massive burden of proof completely off your shoulders.
Huge relief.
It turns the anecdotal stress of property management into objective forensic engineering data.
Yeah.
It levels the playing field against billion-dollar insurance companies.
It really changes the entire dynamic of homeownership because at the end of the day, a roof is absolutely not a cosmetic cap. We have to unlearn that myth.
We really do.
It is the primary, highly engineered shield guarding your home's structural and financial integrity. Whether you are managing a historic legacy property in Brunswick, preparing for a complex real estate transaction on Jekyll Island, or you're just fascinated by the hidden physics of the everyday structures around us, understanding these relentless microclimates completely changes how you view the roof over your head.
It allows you to move from a vulnerable, reactive posture, just sitting around waiting for a leak to ruin your drywall, to a highly proactive strategy of true resilience.
And if you are listening to this right now and you own property in the Golden Isles or any of the surrounding coastal areas, you need to take these proactive steps before the next storm season arrives.
Absolutely do not wait.
You do not want to wait for the loud threat of a hurricane to reveal what the silent predator has already done to your decking. You can reach out directly to Coastal Georgia Quality Roofs to get a free roofing estimate and a comprehensive forensic inspection. Give them a call at 912-268-0486.
But they have a ton of information online too.
Yeah, you can also dive into the specifics online. Visit coastalgeorgiasqualityroofs.com/residential roofing in coastal Georgia, or check out their dedicated Brunswick page. You can also easily find them by searching for their Google business profile. Again, grab a pen. That number is 912-268-0486.
In this environment, establishing that relationship before the wind starts howling is the smartest single move a coastal homeowner can make.
It really is the ultimate leverage. So we'll leave you with this final thought to mull over as you go about your day. We naturally tend to think of our homes as static, lifeless, impenetrable barriers protecting us from the chaos of the outside world. But in reality, the building itself is constantly breathing.
It's alive, in a way.
It is expanding in the sun, it is contracting in the cool night air, and it is an active, ongoing participant in a relentless, microscopic biological and chemical ecosystem. As you sit in your home today, look up at the ceiling and ask yourself, is the roof above you currently acting as a highly engineered, invincible shield, or has it quietly become a slow meal for the atmosphere?